Good evening, everyone.
Ah, Good evening.
Can you hear us, Jonathan?
Oh, Norm, I hear you loud and clear.
Great. We hear you loud and clear.
All right, good.
Can you hear me?
Loud, I can hear you even when you're not talking.
Okay, honey. Well,
right.
that wasn't you. Lori was the honey.
Oh, I'm not the honey?
You're not the honey. I'm sorry.
You would be if Sarah probably hears this and not like it.
Yeah, but Lori was coming.
Hi, Lori.
Hi, good to see you.
Likewise. Are you on the front porch?
Well, we're in Asheville right now, so I'm on the balcony. It's hopefully going to be quiet enough here, but it's a very nice spot.
Where are you?
In Asheville, North
In
Carolina.
Asheville. Oh, how
Yeah.
nice that sounds. Wow, and Robin is here and Carol is here.
Hey,
This is great. This is like
Yeah.
old home week.
it is.
It's the regular round.
All right, just got it.
We'll give it a few minutes more for other people to join in.
Does he know you're on? Hmm? There you go.
Lori's up here. She's up there. She's eating something.
Hello, staff
Very.
one, staff one, I give up. Who is staff one? A new face for me. How are you,
Stop.
staff one?
Ta-da.
Oh, this man.
Maybe we have to.
Say something.
Hello, Rabbi
Hello?
Yonatan?
Hello?
Why do I keep doing that?
I don't think our picture.
All right, everybody's
Where am I?
getting on right now.
Hello.
No, wait 1 second. Oh,
Hello?
Hello.
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 It's Glenn and Amy.
Hi, Glenn and Amy. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Can you see
Are
us?
you in Georgia or Texas?
Georgia,
Georgia.
That's a smart move.
way too hot.
Yeah. I'm sure. So Glenn and Amy and Bert and Carol and Norm and Lori and Robin and Sheila.
Can you see us or?
I cannot see you. I
Okay.
don't know why I can't see you.
I'm not sure what we're doing wrong. Let's see.
You've got the camera with an X with a line through it, which means that you're on audio only. Hey,
Okay.
Brian, how are you?
Hey, doing well, thank you.
Trying
You're
to
giving me some beard competition there. Look at that.
We're working on it.
Wow.
camera with it.
All right. Well, as they say, the
Mhm.
band is back together.
Thanks, God.
I don't understand why.
Is that Sheila?
Yes, it's me. I can't
Good.
seem to get my I don't know. I just
Lori, where would someone find the camera icon so that
It's
they
usually on
Yeah, we
the
found it.
bottom left of your screen. It says video.
Says start
If, it,
video.
if you see a red circle with
Yeah.
a slash there, you go.
There's my
I see
Sheila.
you now, Sheila.
where am I?
You're in Ball Ground, Georgia, if I remember correctly,
I am in Ball Ground, Georgia.
You don't
But
see yourself.
which is a long
No.
way from home, Sheila.
I can't see myself. Can anybody see me?
Yes,
Yes,
We see
we
you.
see.
Okay,
You might have a setting where you don't see yourself.
whatever. As long as
Yeah.
All right. So whoever wants to be seen is being seen, and whoever not.
Well, we just haven't figured it out yet.
We got, we're on the start video.
Okay.
did it.
Oh, there's Baruch.
We're
Oh,
there.
there we go. Ah,
And there's Devara Tova. At least I see her smile.
Yeah.
Your face, but I see her smile.
We're happy to be here.
it was
Really
just-
happy that you are here. So
Settings?
welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Here we go.
Old friends and new
Right
friends.
here.
Old friends and new
There we
friends.
go. Thank you.
There you
Right
are,
here.
Glenn. Now I see you. Hi, Amy. Hi, Glenn. So I hope everybody's having a good summer. And I appreciate you joining this class. I think this is a real important class. It's one of my favorite to teach because the way I learn the most personally, selfishly, is by teaching. The degree of insight I have as I'm teaching is much greater than what I have if I'm just picking up and learning myself. So I have to thank you for being part of the process. Any questions before we begin? Of any nature?
I hope you don't mind me finishing dessert.
What is dessert? You should be giving your husband the dessert. Okay, sorry, Sheila. Enjoy the dessert. I'm sure Tony can find some cookies somewhere.
Stewed apples and fresh blueberries. It's really delicious.
Oh, all right, good. Good.
I think the car you're here.
All right, so my dear friends, let's jump into it. I think most of us on this call are old enough to remember that when your television would break, there was something called a television repairman, and you would take the television to a television repairman. That's something that's incomprehensible to the younger generation, but we, I think, mostly remember. So the old joke about that experience is that a fellow brings a TV to the repair shop and he says to the tech, it's just not working properly. Please take a look. And the technician looks at it and he says, there's nothing wrong with it. And the owner asks, so why are all the programs so lousy? And that's the joke. That's the joke. Okay. The reality is that most of all the self-help books, the courses, all the techniques, which is a multi-billion-dollar industry, deal with the mechanical aspects of our personality. How to fix this or that problem. But the programs that run on our TV set, that's what we aim to deal with throughout this course, the programs themselves. So this is not superficial stuff. This is soul stuff. And we're going to take a completely different approach to the subject. We're going to do that by using the ancient wisdom of the Kabbalah. I assume the word Kabbalah is a term that most of you are familiar with, though you may or may not know what it is. And if you have delved into Kabbalah before, what distinguishes what we're learning tonight from the mainstream subject of Kabbalah is that Kabbalah deals with stuff that's way up there in the abstract, esoteric realms. And what we're doing is we're taking that and we're drawing it down into the human soul so that it becomes relatable and it becomes tangible and it becomes things that we can actually work with to refine ourselves. The Kabbalah itself, or I should say the wisdom within the Kabbalah, was actually given by God to Moses on Mount Sinai 3,337 years ago, to be exact. And then it was passed down generationally, but quite frankly, it stayed in the hands of the most spiritually refined individuals. It took being at such a high spiritual level to be able to understand it, to appreciate it, to apply it, that most people simply didn't make the grade. So it stayed within an elite club, generation after generation, until the mid to late 1700s of the Common Era. And that's when the Hasidic movement, most of you have heard the term Hasidic, that's when the Hasidic movement came into being, and it opened up the mystical aspects of Judaism for the rest of us, so that we could actually not just learn academically, but begin to internalize psycho-emotionally the concepts within the Kabbalah. Now, it wasn't that long ago, within my lifetime, that we weren't even allowed to open up the Kabbalah and start learning it until we're 40 years old, at the very least. Not that most of us don't qualify based on that ground, but nonetheless, now it's open and it's available to everyone. So what is Kabbalah? What does it do? It literally charts and it maps the healthy human being. It maps out 10 points of energy, 10 points of light that contain extraordinary power. When I sent out the email, I asked you to print out just 2 single pages. So if you have this available, please have it in front of you, as well as the companion.
You gonna take part?
This one. You can see that.
Yeah, there.
Because this is going to be the map that we use for the next 8 weeks. What you're looking at are called the 10 Sefirot. The 10 Sefirot that you're looking at are literally the blueprint that God used to create the universe in the macro. What does that mean? Well, first of all, when we're talking about God at this level of godliness, we're speaking about God prior to creation. Prior to creation. When I use the word prior, that denotes that I'm speaking about something to do with time. But we're talking about God before he created time. So even so as we talk about God in this essential form, it's very, very hard to grasp. So we're going to be using lots of metaphors to talk about God. Otherwise, it's impossible to try to apprehend, to grasp some of these concepts. So God is in the essential form behind creation, before time, before space. God is singular. God is simple. God is complete. God is infinite. Okay, these are terms that don't help us understand. But when he decided that he wanted to create a universe, and FYI, the reason that he decided that he wanted to create a universe is for us. It wasn't for Mount Everest, and it wasn't for Jupiter, and it wasn't for faraway galaxies, and it wasn't for anything else but us, because we are created in his divine image. That's how he created us. All right. So when he decided that he wanted to create a universe, he took within his simplicity, within his singularity, he took certain attributes to create the universe. Now, picture, if you will, a sun, the sun, and picture sunbeams. Picture a sunbeam coming through your living room window. If you look through at that sunbeam coming through your window, you might say that it has an independent existence. It exists all on its own. That's what your eyes, that's what your senses would lead you to believe. But if you were to trace that sunbeam all the way back to the orb called the sun, that sunbeam would lose its entire identity. Even though it would still be there within the orb of the sun, it would not be correct to say that that sunbeam exists independently within the sun. You get that concept? Because we're going to be using a lot of concepts like this over the next 8 weeks. So God decided to take 10 attributes, and in the macro, he created the universe. And in the micro, those very same 10 powers are known as the 10 soul powers. Each of us, you and I, have these 10 soul powers embedded within our soul. And that's the subject of the course. Any questions thus far? Okay, so I'm already worried if nobody has questions. Let's keep going then. Even though we're going to be dealing with a lot of esoteric, abstract concepts, the goal here is something very practical and very tangible. So while we'll begin each evening up in the esoteric realm, we will bring it down each evening into, okay, what do I do with it? How do I use this in my life? Because from a Jewish perspective, not exclusively, but from a Jewish perspective, the purpose of life is to strive to harmonize and to actualize the power within our soul, the light within our soul. And that's called bringing ourselves into a state of tikkun. Can anybody translate the Hebrew word tikkun? Tikkun means to repair. So our goal is to bring our soul into a state of repair. And by doing that, that ultimately leads to bringing the world into repair. Most of us start with a concept called tikkun olam. We need to repair the world. We need to correct the world. Well, if we look no further than our noses, we can begin with correcting ourselves. And a funny thing happens when we correct ourselves, and that is the world gets better as a result. So over the next 8 weeks, we're going to use this template, this Kabbalistic template of these 10 soul powers to examine what a healthy human being looks like. And this will, God willing, enable us to lead a healthy life inside and out. Before we go further, I want to emphasize that you must interrupt when you don't understand. Because if you don't, you're going to get left behind, and it's just not going to be as meaningful or gratifying for you.
You are on there.
So is
So-
this for all people or
This
us?
is for all of humanity. The concepts in the Kabbalah apply to every human being on the face of the earth. This is not an exclusively Jewish subject. So I teach a lot of classes, and a lot of them are on a religion called Judaism. This is not one of those classes. This class specifically is of the fact that each of us has a soul. Each of us was created in the divine image, and walking around with these 10 soul powers in a schmutzy world. Somebody want to translate schmutz? It's a Yiddish term which means dirty, a filthy world. All right. We tend to get our soul blemished in the process. So this
So-
is,
You said we can interrupt, so I'm going to interrupt you.
please.
You said that this applies to not just only Jewish people.
That's correct.
So do non-Jewish people actually approach Chabad? Do they know about Chabad? How do they learn about Kabbalah?
We don't.
Okay, you just heard it from the horse's mouth.
Okay.
By the way, I'm surmising because the name is not next to your face. I'm assuming that you're Walter.
I am Walter. Yes, I am.
Walter, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure, Rabbi.
Great, thank you, thank you.
Hey, Sheila,
Yes.
this is Brian. By the way, go Liverpool, but besides the point, you know my background as a
Stop it, Brian.
I missed you last Monday, but we know what happened. I've been following Kabbalah for a while before. I mean, when I first began my investigation into Judaism, and as a Christian, I heard about this thing, and I said, "This is very, very interesting. I don't understand it, but it kind of drew me in." And as I'm developing more of my Judaism studies, well, I'm so glad I'm learning more about it.
Very good. So yes, this is for all of humanity, period. No exceptions, no holdbacks. But I will say this, anything that you take out of this course or anything that you take out of learning the subject called Kabbalah, called Jewish mysticism, and the reason it's called Jewish mysticism is because its root is in the Torah. But when I say its root is in the Torah, the Jewish people at Mount Sinai, 3,337 years ago, there we are. What happened was we were given two mandates from God. One mandate was to learn Torah and to do what is called the mitzvot. There are 613 mitzvot, or commandments, and we're commanded to spend our lives each and every day, 24/7, doing these commandments.
This is all of us?
This is the Jewish people.
Okay.
But the Jewish people were also given a second mandate at Mount Sinai. And God said, take those things that are universal in nature within the Torah and share it with all of humanity. And that's something that we have not been successful doing until recently, until the last 100 years or so, until the advent of evangelical Christianity and humanistic secular culture. There wasn't really an opportunity to share. But now there is. And that's, again, the purpose of this course, to share what God asked us to share with humanity. And just as a point of reference, Judaism in general, even very religious Jewish people that look like they know everything that's going on, most of us don't learn this stuff. So, because we're more concerned for the most part with the here and now stuff. But my overarching point is, if you are taking this course for academic purposes because it's interesting, great. I'm really happy that you're doing it. But there's something much more accessible and much that's available to you that, quite frankly, is worth much more, has much greater value. And that is the opportunity to take these concepts and to make them yours. And you'll see your life change. You'll see your life get better as a result. You'll discover things about yourself. You'll apply them, and you'll see all sorts of things improving. Now, in anticipating that for some people who say, well, my life is already great, so who says it can't be better? So the reality is that it can be better. And in life, we know, we're all old enough to know, that either you're climbing or you're sliding. There's no standing still. So here's an opportunity to climb. And the reason why it's relevant is because just like you take your car every 5,000 miles to change the oil, and then you get periodic tune-ups and flush the radiator and do whatever it is you're supposed to do to a car, the same thing when it comes to the powers in our soul, when it comes to our faculties, our intellectual and emotive and behavioral faculties in our soul, they get clogged up because we live in a dirty world. And we're influenced by many things from the outside that distort things. As a result, the powers of the soul can become corrupted. Not irredeemably so, but all of us have to go through this 5,000-mile check if we want to be nice and clean all the time. So, yes, Kim.
It just makes me think, certainly I'm not Jewish, but I'm learning, and I've had an opportunity to just have some friends who helped me along the way. But where I feel like the importance, especially of taking this course, is it seems to me to apply to so many things that have some synchronicity, whether the tree of life, literally the mysticism of things that are bigger and can connect to, if I have this right, to God, that is not in so many ways, of whether I see in Christianity, like contemplative Christianity, I only know a little of a lot of things, right? But where I feel like this lands for me too, and just hearing you briefly, is as a therapist, right, is whether or not you have empathy for all these things going on around. And people are certainly concerned, understandably, about the world and the environment and just various things, but like where we start within ourselves, like the anchoring within myself to not get so distracted that I'm unable to, one, care for myself and then extend that outward. And that was part of 3 conversations today in therapy, where how do we, and it's not selfish and it's not wrong, but like you have to clean inside your house, inside you, and really work with your own stuff before. I'm not the best with words sometimes, but especially in recall, but where then extenuating that out, so I can't give from what I don't have, and how to also, create boundaries around some of the things that are going on. And so in so many ways, it connects with me, whether or not it verbally comes out exactly how I'm thinking.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
By all means, I agree with everything you just said. All right. So again, I just want to emphasize if you want to comment or if you want to put the brakes on and say, I don't get this, please explain it again. Please do it, because you'll be doing yourself a disservice and probably others as well if you don't stop me. Okay? So let's begin. Here's the real beginning. Let's take a look at the 10 soul powers. Now, if you didn't print it out or it's not accessible to you, then somewhere in the PDF that I sent you is it's called Figure 1.1. It's another replica of the 10 soul powers. So you should have one or the other. I like working from this page because I think it's the most illustrative. Excuse me.
I do not have that page.
Well, perhaps you could explain to me why I thought I printed it and my printer didn't print it.
This is
Because you are meant to internalize it through your hearing rather than your sight. So you're going to use your special power of hearing rather than sight.
Today, until I sort the printer out, absolutely.
yeah, I don't know.
All right, so
Sometimes you can split the screen. I don't know if you know how to do that on certain screens.
oh, you know what? Yeah, I'm not sure I know how to do that. Lori, how do I split my screen? Let's see, multiple positions.
here.
Or
Here.
sharing.
Take
but
yourself
for
off mute.
those-
Lori, take yourself off mute.
Yeah, it's loud here, so I forgot I muted myself. So I know how to share your screen. I'm not sure I know how to split screen, but let me see.
Okay, so
It depends what you're using, but like for those of you who are at home, if you have the ability, like let's say on a Mac or an iPad, you can actually hover over the green dot and it gives you some choices and how you want to see the screen and then bring up. But I don't want to overwhelm folks too, but you can share your screen as well.
okay, so maybe we'll save that for next time. This is beyond my pay grade.
Sure.
So let's begin by just doing a brief overview of these 10 powers. And you don't need to know them or remember them, and you don't have to remember their names. And I'll probably end up slipping into some Hebrew names. You can always refer to the chart of the 10 Sphirot, which has the name of the Sphira. Sphira would be translated as soul power. And then it has translation, then it has the concept, and then it has the character. So don't get hung up on knowing what things are called. Just go for the overall of what we're talking about. So if you look at the very top of the tree of life of these powers, you'll see something called crown. And what distinguishes crown from the rest of the soul powers is that the other soul powers seem to be related to the human being, whereas the crown is above the human being. And the reason for that, great, but it's the wrong image. Brian? Oh,
That's the
Brian.
wrong image.
Okay. Okay, thanks anyway, but we'll just leave it the way it is. So that at the top, which is called crown, or in Hebrew it's called keter, literally means desire or will. It's not one of the 10 soul powers. As a matter of fact, if you count all those circles in and around the human being, you'll count 11, not 10.
Yeah.
And the reason why is the crown is not part of your soul. The crown is hovering above your head. It's the source of what you would call desire or will. And because it's hovering above you, it's all-encompassing, it's all-inclusive. And again, it's the source of everything that you desire. Now, in the macro, when God uses these 10 powers to create the universe, he does so for one reason only, and that's because he desires to be in a relationship with us predicated upon our choice. He's not interested in overwhelming us so that we can't say no. He's interested in quite the opposite, in creating the illusion that he has obscured himself from us, so we have to find him if we want to. And if we don't want to find him, we don't have to. And we can live 120 plus years as atheists and have very happy, productive lives and die never having had a connection with God. Without judging that, that's definitely within the realm of possibility, and that's what many people, that's how many people live. So he's interested in the way he set up the dynamic was to create an opportunity for us to choose him. So that is his will and desire. Now, how can you say that God has a desire? If God desires something, that implies that he's missing something. If God is missing something, then he's not God. So what's going on here? How can God desire? And the answer is that God decided that he wanted to exhibit a desire. I know it sounds semantic, but I need to reinforce that God doesn't need anything. God was the same before creation as after. He was not affected at all by this thing that we take so seriously called creation because we happen to live here. So what God's interest, God's will, God's desire was to create a universe for our purpose. That same will and desire he used when he decided to create us in his image. That's what the divine image doctrine is about. Whether or not we're conscious of it, we have an inner will. And our inner will, our inner desire, is to align ourselves with a higher purpose. Again, it can be completely obscured from us. It may not be conscious. It may not ever become conscious. But when we actually align ourselves with this will, this desire, this is the definition of living in sync. This is what an evolved spiritual person does. So our focus, again, in this class is to use each one of these 10 soul powers for the purpose of personal growth. We're going to be speaking much more about crown as we go on, but I want to just run through these 10 powers. If you look in the upper right, you see something called wisdom. In Hebrew, it's called Chachma. You don't need to know this. You're not getting tested on it. Wow, how did you do that? Okay, there. Can you see my cursor moving around wisdom?
We don't have.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Wisdom is the upper right. The right tangent, the right axis, excuse me, is masculine in nature. The left axis is feminine in nature, and the center axis is a harmony between masculine and feminine, between male and female. So on the upper right, we have wisdom. Wisdom is a poor translation, but we're just going to go with it until we learn in more depth what it really means. For the moment, we're going to call wisdom a flash of wisdom. What is a flash of wisdom? Everyone here has experienced it. Everyone here has been in a situation where you're working on a solution to a problem and you can't find it, and you're frustrated, and finally you just break the pencil, throw it across the room, and at that moment, the answer comes to you.
That's the light bulb above the head.
Exactly, Norm. It's the light bulb above the head. It's the best illustration I have for you is Archimedes. Archimedes was in a bathtub with his rubber duck or doing whatever it was, and he saw that it was floating, and he realized that he had just stumbled upon the concept of buoyancy. So he runs through the streets of Athens stark naked. Now, if you saw Mr. Archimedes in that situation, you might want to run for cover. But if you saw him in that situation and you asked him, "Excuse me, Mr. Archimedes, what is it?" And he says, "Eureka," but he can't tell you what it is because it's not yet at the point where it's come down into something real. It's rather a flash of wisdom. And where did that flash of wisdom come from? It comes from your soul. So anytime in your life that you got an answer to something that you didn't know the answer, what the answer was until you got it, my friends, it came from your soul. On the left upper side, we have something called understanding. Understanding. Understanding is taking that flash of wisdom and turning it into something grounded on earth.
Is that Bina?
That's Bina, exactly.
I heard that that's like a gut feeling, and that's why women have so much of it, because you have a gut feeling when you're with your children.
We could go as far as to say it's a gut feeling. The concept that I want to convey is that it's about if you just let that flash of wisdom be, it's going to go away and you're not going to remember it.
Yeah.
So in comes the feminine energy that says, "Hold on a second, we got something valuable here, let's work it." And she turns it into something, organizing it, outlining it, doing whatever has to be. And then we go to the power in the middle, which is the harmony between the two, which we're calling knowledge here. Again, these translations are just not adequate, as we'll see as we start to delve into each one. What that really is, by the way, in Hebrew, it's called da'at, and that is the internalization of the concept. It's the personal connection to the idea. So you get a flash, and then you say, "Wait a second, I got to work with it, I got to bring it down." And then you work with it to a point where, as they say, you make it yours. You own it at that point. So da'at,
Would that be something like a sixth sense?
it would be much deeper than a sixth sense. It would be tangible. It would be so tangible that it's inside of you at that point. For example, we're talking about internalization. We're talking about the fact that now you know it, but you know it based on who Sheila is. Sheila knows it based on who Sheila is. So there's a subjectivity to it. It's all Sheila's. It's all Sheila's understanding. If we look in Genesis and we see in the second chapter, it says that Adam knew Eve. And we know that know or da'at in Hebrew is a euphemism for a sexual union. So here is a classic case of making something intimate, making it yours. It doesn't get any deeper than da'at. So these three intellectual powers, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, are all intellectually based.
Isn't this your text of Proverbs 4:7?
Say it again, Walter.
I said, is this not basically the Proverbs 4:7 quotation out of your Bible?
I can't pull it out of my mind right now, so I'll take your word for it.
It says, wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. Yea, with all thy getting, get understanding.
Wow. Okay, so I guess King Solomon did know what he was talking about.
It seems like it is, doesn't it?
Yeah. So these three attributes are all intellectually based. And parenthetically, these three attributes in Hebrew, Chochmah, Binah, and Da'at, if you take the first letter of each one, the acronym spells Chabad. Chabad is a Hasidic movement within Judaism today. And it is the tip of the spear of Hasidic wisdom. So now you have, for building blocks, you've got the crown on top, which is not part of the soul. And now we've just discovered three intellectual faculties known as wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. Below those three, we're going to see 7 more, which are all emotive or emotional and or behavioral in nature, which we'll cover now. Loving kindness, discipline, compassion, ambition, humility, bonding, sovereignty, dignity. These are all emotive in nature. Before we get into them, let's look at something and make it obvious to ourselves, and that is in this diagram, which again is not just a diagram that an artist drew, this is a diagram from God Almighty. He puts the intellect above the emotions. And that's the key to living a spiritually refined life and a successful life, is putting your intellect above your emotions. That's where they belong. The emotions need to, the intellect needs to dictate the emotions. That's one of the fundamental tenets of this course. So let's quickly go through the 7 emotional attributes. On the far right, we see loving kindness. Loving kindness is generosity without boundaries. It's just the desire to give. On the opposite side, you have discipline, known as gevura in Hebrew, which you can say is restraint or boundaries or severity. So you've got loving kindness on the right, and it's being pulled to the left by discipline. When God created the world, in order to create the world, he did it out of compassion. He did it out of loving kindness. God is a loving God. So when he created this whole thing called the universe, he did it with loving kindness. But he had to use discipline. If he didn't temper his loving kindness with discipline, then we could not emerge as independently functioning creatures. So he had to restrain himself. Make sense? Yeah.
Makes me think of temperance, right? So the balance of
So that's what we're getting to now, which is compassion. Or in Hebrew, it's called tiferet. And it literally means beauty or harmony. Let me give you an example. You go to get a cup of coffee at Starbucks. As you're walking towards the front door, there's a homeless guy all strewn out by the entrance, and you see needle marks all over his arm. Loving kindness looks at that and says, oh, this poor guy, I'm going to give him a $20 bill. Discipline looks at the same thing and says, what, are you crazy? He's just going to use it for drugs. Compassion says, hey, buddy, come inside with me. Let me buy you a cup of coffee and a bagel, and let's see what's going on. That's compassion. So compassion always errs on the side of loving kindness, but it uses its sechel, its intellect, to temper some of that loving kindness. Just like as when you were parents, if your 2-year-old, if your toddler wanted to play with the sharpest knife in the drawer, and he started crying because you wouldn't let him do it, what would you do? Would you give him the knife out of compassion? Of course not. So that's tiferet. Then we have, going down on the right side, ambition, also known as netzach. Again, it's translated as ambition or endurance. It's the desire to march forward. It's the desire to be victorious. The word for victory in Hebrew is netzaniut, from the same shorish, from the same root as netzach. It's somebody who wants to move forward boldly, and that's tempered with humility. On the left side, known as hod in Hebrew, that means yielding. That means surrendering. That means letting the other guy goes first. If you're in traffic in downtown Atlanta, you don't want to be ambition behind humility, because humility is going to let everybody go in front. Ambition is the guy that's going to try to pass on the shoulder. And
But
then
when we say that Moshe was the most humble of all, I thought it meant that he knew himself. He didn't brag about anything. It's just he knew what he was capable of doing, and that it all came from God.
yeah, for sure. I mean, Moses was more refined than I believe most of us, at least in our current form, are. And Moses is known in the Torah, in the Bible, as the humblest of human beings, the most humble. Now, how is that possible? He had a relationship with God face to face. He had the entire knowledge of the entire Torah. He led 3 million people through the desert for 40 years. How could you say that he was humble? Did he not know who he was? And Moses answers the question himself. Moses says, the reason that I'm humble,
Listening to that
the reason that I'm humble
up with the
is because
rabbi.
okay. The reason that I'm humble, says Moses, is because had somebody else been
Okay.
gifted
Rabbi.
the same attributes that I have, they would have probably done more than me. And that's what kept Moses humble.
Wow.
Because he realized that everything he has is a gift. At any rate, the below ambition and humility, going back to the middle axis, is bonding or yesod. That's foundation. And it's based on speech. It's based on back and forth, dialogue back and forth. And below that is sovereignty, known as malchut in Hebrew. And that is definitely speech. That's expressing yourself through the power of your mouth. So none of this is supposed to make sense to you yet. So if it does, there's probably something wrong. But if it doesn't make sense, then you're perfect at the moment. These 10 energies can either be healthy or they can be distorted. They can be holy or they can be profane. Back up at the top where we saw crown, it's not a soul power because it's above everything else. Like a crown, it rests above the intellect. It encompasses and it includes all 10 soul powers. FYI, the reason that there are 11 circles here is because I wanted there to be 11 circles, but you will never see a diagram with 11 circles. Either you will see crown or you'll see knowledge, but you'll never see them both together in a Kabbalistic illustration. It's kind of like Superman and Clark Kent. You'll never see them together. You'll never see crown and knowledge together. And the reason why is because crown represents the supernal desire, represents God's desire, God's will. That's a little too lofty for us. So we have the next best thing, which is called in the center, knowledge or da'at. And that's our source of will and desire. And as we'll learn in the course, that before intellect, before emotions, before behavior, it all starts with desire. It all starts with your raison d'etre, your reason to be here, your personal mission statement.
Rabbi Yonasan, would you repeat that? Like, so in the before intellect, before emotions, before, I know there was like 2 more.
So the beginning for all of the beginning of anything that you do in your life starts with your desire.
Got it.
Later, you go scrambling through your intellect and your emotion to justify your desire if it's not healthy, or to accentuate it in a beautiful way if it is healthy. But it all starts with desire. So I think the takeaway from this first portion is just look at the fact that intellect is on top, emotions are on the bottom. Because our purpose, our uniqueness as human beings, is that a person can control his impulses and his temptations, which is very different than an animal who's guided and ruled by instinct and impulse, emotion. So humans are not just more evolved animals, we're more than that. And we have the potential to be even infinitely greater. If anybody has, I'll read this one because it's short. Text 3a on your page 18 is a quote directly from Bereshit, from the book of Genesis. Chapter 1, verse 26, God said, "We shall make man in our image, after our likeness." So God created man in his image. The ultimate purpose of our existence is the crown. That's why we're here. And it's from that crown that everything else emanates. Before I go on, does anyone have a question about that passage in Genesis?
No, can I make just an observation?
Please do, Walter.
The fact that I'm here to learn and not to make statements, because surely in fact I've got much to learn.
Speak a little louder, Walter, a little louder.
I said I am here to learn and not to comment. But your comment about the fact that what we see, if we understand it, then we really don't see it at all, and that's very true. But it's interesting that what you're showing here in the diagram in explanations, in essence, is not unfamiliar to me as a Christian. Is much of the same thing seen through a different lens.
Very well.
And as you talk, I'm sitting here reading or looking or thinking of my own biblical text. I find so much of this very, very familiar. Maybe I'm just not understanding you at all, but this is not so strange. It's a different way of looking at things, different lens, different approach, different thought pattern. But generally, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's the same idea.
So,
and I mean, I won't go further than that, but and it's not my place here to do that.
So Walter, by the way, whoever put up the soul map, thank you. Can you take it down now so I can get a better view of y'all?
Absolutely.
I can't believe 4 years in Georgia and I'm talking saying y'all. How did that happen?
Oh, y'all.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm old and hard of hearing. But I just wanted to
give me 1 second. I'm gonna try and stop sharing.
To basically say the fact that all this is fascinating and interesting. It's a lens I'm not familiar with, but concepts which are not strange to me as a Christian.
Right. So Walter, the reason for that, Walter, is because truth is truth. Judaism does not have a monopoly on truth. If something is in the Torah, it's true. But it doesn't mean that that same truth is not found in Christian scripture. It doesn't mean that that same truth is not found elsewhere within Eastern religion, even though as Westerners, as monotheists, as believers in one God, we look at Eastern religions as polytheistic. The reality is, if you remember your Bible, when Abraham remarries after the death of Sarah, he marries, anybody remember her name?
Hagar.
Hagar was her name when she was his concubine.
Right, I'm sorry.
Anyone else? Pretend this is Jeopardy. Can anybody answer who, I don't know how to phrase it like on Jeopardy. After Sarah died,
Keturah.
Keturah. Who said that? Who said Keturah?
Doreen.
Wow.
I don't know where yet.
Oh, by the way, Keturah actually was Hagar. It was her with a different name.
Right.
They had children. They had, I think, 4 or 6 children together. And if you read right there in the scripture, you don't need a commentator. You don't need a translator. It says He took the children, he gave them all gifts, and he sent them to the East. So I'm just saying that, Walter, because truth is truth. And you will find it within Christianity as well, because there's truth in Christianity.
But I am very familiar with God sent Hagar back after she was sent away by Sarah. So the fact that we are very familiar with that story as well.
Right.
But I the fact that I thank you for allowing a Christian to attend this. This is interesting to me. It is very
Good. Good. I'm happy.
Okay.
So when we say that we are created in God's image, what does that even mean? We are created in his image. Does it mean that if I have a nose, does that mean that God has a nose? No, obviously, no, it does not. It means that we're created in his image. We have these 10 soul powers, which are 10 attributes that God decided to possess, and he created us with them. So there's a very powerful message here, and that is that just like God has no definition or limitation, humans are not meant to be limited or defined by how we feel. Yes, we're not God, so we have limitations. I'm not saying otherwise. But we are not meant to be limited by how we feel. Humans, unlike animals, can feel passionately, but we can also control our impulses. And when a person doesn't exercise this control, he's not acting human. What do? We say he's an animal.
No, no.
But they say never act in emotion. It's best to take some time and work with that, what is felt, because that's not always telling us the truth.
Precisely, Kimberly. This is because we expect human beings to guide their hearts with their mind. Why? Because human beings are created in the divine image. And in the picture, in the diagram, in the 10 soul powers, the mind lies above the heart.
But isn't that just in a perfect world? Because not every human being tries to do that.
Right. They don't. And so it's working on that. I mean, I don't want to overstep, but where, at least in the therapeutic world, we have access to our mind and intellect, and sometimes those feelings can feel like they're overriding, or because they flare up, they get in the way. So that's why taking time to come back, grounding, working with these other parts, at least in a therapeutic framework, to then access that which we are given, which separates us out, is the ability to think, process, analyze, synthesize information, etc. All the prefrontal lobe work we have, and the midbrain is emotion. And so the key is learning how to balance or temperance, which on the diagram, between the two, and not let one just dominate and override.
I wish I could have said it that way.
I understand that.
The takeaway is that, yes, we do not live in a perfect world, which is by design.
Right.
God created a garden and he said, you guys tend it. I want you to be partners in creation. So how do we be partners in creation? First of all, getting it together within ourselves before we start worrying about our neighbors.
Right. First,
get it together. And then by example, work on your neighbor.
Okay, but how do you know when you've got it together?
I'll tell you.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's a process of always learning and learning and growing. And you go through different, just like watching children go through developmental phases so quickly, walking, talking. So do you, like, whether it's in the decades, I know certainly at, 50 now, which may sound whatever, but something is changing, something's brewing, something, this kind of space in me, which is part of why investing in myself, taking this class, because it very much appealed to me. And I had the pleasure of meeting, Rabbi Yonatan, but like where something else, I need something more. And so it appealed even in the Christian aspect, which again, I know symbols of, we were I'm going to admittedly say, and not to take up too much time, but like the people who showed up for Christmas and, Easter, and that was like the experience, and maybe some church summer camp. Outside of that, I didn't really have a ton of exposure. Now is where the quest is for me. But even in the contemplative Christianity space, where the kind of idea of, mysticism and like this direct, I don't want to speak too far ahead because I don't really know, but like the direct relationship with God and all of these pieces that are similar, but yet, and yeah, I don't know. It just, for me, I keep seeing symbols and like the tree of life and the Kabbalah, like all kind of makes, like it's all making sense. I think what you were saying, it's not only owned by this or this or this particular, it is the way, the truth of.
Very good. So hang tough and be
Yeah.
patient, and we'll get there. So let's get to work. All right, let's go. Let's begin with Keter. You don't have to show the image, but remember, Keter is the crown. It's on top. It's not a soul power. It's above. It's all encompassing. It's all inclusive, and it's the source of all will and desire. And will is the most potent force that we have. As we discussed, it stands well beyond intelligence and emotions, just like a crown sits above the head. Because will or desire gives rise and motivates all of our other soul powers. I don't think I need to give you an analogy. I think you know what I mean. If you have a desire to do something, if the desire is strong enough, you'll figure out how to accomplish it. So Keter, or the crown, contains within it the ultimate goal which it seeks to fulfill. So you could say, as we say within, I think it's the book of Proverbs, that the end is wedged within the beginning. So within desire, which is the beginning, which is where it all starts up here, that desire, we already see what we want the end result to be. So the beginning is wedged in the end, and the end is also wedged in the beginning. So, yes.
I'm just saying there's a little confusion for me here because I'm seeing this force changing in me from time to time, or as I get older, or changes, and then everything else has to fall into place to satisfy that force that is in my head. Am I saying it correctly, or does it make any sense?
Yeah, you're saying exactly what it is. If you take the analogy of a house, if you want to build a house, first you have to have a desire to build a house. And then you have to figure out plans and permits and architects and contractors' estimates.
Right.
And then you have to start really, really planning it, both theoretically and practically.
Right.
For what purpose is this house being built? How is this house designed to reflect the purpose that I'm building it? And with
Instead of always, sorry.
With each iteration of the plan, the person, you're going to have an emotional response to it. I like this, I don't like that. You're going to
It's not always that simple.
Sorry?
It's not always that simple.
No, it's not. I'm using a basic analogy just to understand the concept.
Right.
The reality is that with whatever obstacles come up, as they always do when you're building a house, your desire will never be put to rest until the plan reaches fruition, until you have a house.
And even then, you might say, we made a mistake. We should have made this room bigger.
Yeah, and then if you're in Atlanta, you sell it and make yourself a few $100,000.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. So because desire is so powerful, it can also pose lots of big challenges. Like when somebody wants something really, really badly, but it's not good for them. Because to be alive is to want. But to be evolved is to surrender those wants. In essence, that's what marriage is about. That's what parenthood is about. So what is an evolved human being? One whose emotions are guided by their intellect, and one who can surrender his or her desire for a greater will, for a greater purpose.
Well, would that be somebody? I'm Jewish, but would that be somebody like a nun who gives herself to the service of God?
That's a little extreme. The answer is yes, but we don't have to go that far.
Okay.
We can go with, God forbid, somebody has diabetes. It's the willpower not to eat the mint chocolate chip ice cream.
Okay.
Okay, you don't have to be Mother Teresa to really get the point. A healthy human being needs to experience each one of these 10 points of light that we're talking about, starting with Keter, starting with crown, starting with desire. Means that we have to begin, we must have a will. We must have wants and desires. That's the driving force of your life, is what you desire. So we have to look at what is it that we are living for. Because if you don't have a strong desire, if you don't have a raison d'etre, and you don't have any wants, it's very dangerous. We don't have to look much further than today's youth, many of whom, as Kimberly will attest, are aimless and depressed. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespecting therapists. That's not my intention. But the psychotherapeutic model of building up self-esteem has turned a lot of young people into narcissists. Not just narcissists, but inept narcissists. Children have to be taught that they're here for a purpose. Not just any purpose, a unique purpose. There's something to accomplish in life. There's something to want in life. We don't have to look any further than Viktor Frankl. If you're not familiar with Viktor Frankl, there's a book on Amazon. It's 100 pages long. It's called Man's Search for Meaning, where he talks about his experience as a young man in Auschwitz. And then he goes on to develop a system of therapy, as you know, called logotherapy.
What was the title of the book?
Man's Search for Meaning. Because we're getting a little tight on time, we're not going to read the text, but please read it on your own. It's in the PDF that I sent you. It's text number 4 from Viktor Frankl. It's 2.5 pages long, but I'll give you the essence. The essence is that Viktor Frankl says that when he was in Auschwitz and he was stripped naked and he had no identity, his head was shaven, he was naked, all he had was a tattoo on his arm. He wasn't referred to by a name. He had no human dignity. He was thrown into a barrel of ice cold water with 2 inches at the top for him to be able to breathe, and the lid on top. And he said at that moment, he realized that there's one freedom that nobody can ever take away from you. And that's the freedom to choose your own attitude at any given moment. From that, he developed the concept that man can endure any how or any what in life, as long as he has a sufficient why. As long as you have a purpose, you can crawl on your belly on broken glass. You'll do whatever you have to do to get there. That's the point. I'm not doing justice to Viktor Frankl. So please circle back and read that. But the takeaway from that, and the question that I have for you is, what do you What do each of you want to accomplish in life? And I don't care if you're in your 30s or in your 90s. What do you want to accomplish? Because to be healthy, one must have a purpose, coupled with a healthy desire. And that goal should be that your desire reflects your greater cosmic purpose. I'm not here to judge anybody's purpose in life. But at the same time, whatever your absolute bottom line mission statement is in life should reflect a greater purpose. There's a story about the Alter Rebbe. His name was Shneur Zalman of Liadi. He was the spiritual grandson of the founder of the Hasidic movement, whose name was the Baal Shem Tov. He was a great holy man. And he used to, as is the case of all Rebbes, what is a Rebbe? A Rebbe is somebody, not a rabbi, but a Rebbe. A rabbi is somebody who learned a few things and went to rabbi school, like me. But to be a Rebbe means that you have evolved to a certain place, that you, somebody who's saintly. And Rebbes traditionally have audiences, private audiences. People come, they stand in line for hours. After having made an appointment, they can stand in line for 20 hours until they go to see the Rebbe. And what the tradition is that you write out what's called a Pidyon HaNefesh, an accounting of your soul, all the things that you want to discuss. When you finally get your audience, you hand that paper to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe reads through and then he comments. So there was a man in the day, in the early 1800s, who went to see the Alter Rebbe. He was a very wealthy businessman, and he lost his fortune. He was distraught. He was devastated. So many people depended on him. He couldn't fulfill any of his obligations. He was depressed. And he wrote all that in a letter to the Rebbe. He went to see the Rebbe. He handed the letter to the Rebbe. The Rebbe read each and every word. He looked up and he said to the businessman, "You've done a very good job here of explaining what it is that you need. But let me ask you a question. What are you needed for?" And that totally changed his life. We see in one of the greatest speeches that I can remember of John F. Kennedy's, when he said, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." It's the same concept. So if you take what I just said in mind, whether it's the story of the Alter Rebbe or John F. Kennedy's speech, and you superimpose what you're needed for, what is your purpose in life, alongside your desire, manifesting your cosmic purpose, it's not moving away from yourself. It's not moving away from your will and your desire, but it's the recognition that each of us has a role to play in the universe. Yeah, little o me, little o you, wherever you are. You have a role to play in the universe. We're told in the Mishnah, we're told in Pirkei Avot, part of the Torah, we're told that the world exists for you. And your will, if you want to be fully evolved, you have to get in touch with the fact that the world, not in an egotistical way, was created for you. And you have a role to play, whatever that is. So the water carrier, the wood chopper, cannot play the role of the king. And the king cannot play the role of the wood chopper. Everybody has their responsibility. So we have to get over the notion, I'm sounding a little too rabbinic or a little too preachy, I'm sorry. Here's the bottom line. We don't exist for ourselves. We exist for all of existence. So when we say that the world was created for me, the world was created for me to make a difference. At first blush, it sounds egotistical. But again, the implication is that each of us has a unique contribution, vitally important to the world. So we could say, with that in mind, that the entire purpose of creation is for the sake of each individual. So the crown aspect of a person's life has to do with your unique purpose in the world. And I would love if you, over the next week, use a journal. Don't trust your head. Write it down in a journal. It could be a journal or a digital journal, or send an email to yourself and work on the question, what is my purpose? And what do I want? And if you find a way to take what you want, what you desire, and have it sync up with what your purpose is, you'll be singing Zippity-Doo-Dah every day of your life. Everybody know Zippity-Doo-Dah?
Zippity. My, oh my, what a wonderful day.
Nice.
Sunshine coming my
Nice.
way.
I,
So is this tied?
Boratova, I do the singing around here, not you.
It's a good thing because
She's not
They-
a singer.
no, they asked me not to sing out loud when I graduated from high school. I'm not with that. But
Okay.
I'm feeling like this is tied in with what am I doing for Tikkun? How am I making things better? Is that part of?
Here's how most of us are making things. Yeah, that's the whole thing. So there's this concept in Judaism that gets it gets a lot of publicity. It's called Tikkun Olam. That somehow our job is to fix the world. You know the story. I'm sure you've all heard the story about the daddy's trying to get some work done, and the little girl is pestering him. So he looks for something to distract her. He finds a magazine. He tears off the back cover. It has a map of the world. He tears it into some pieces and says, "Here, put it back together while I finish my work." Not 30 seconds later, she comes to him and says, "Here, Daddy, I did it." And he can't believe it. It's perfect. And he says, "How did you do it?" She says, "Well, if you turn it over, it's a picture of a man." When you put the human being together, the world automatically comes together. So that's the answer to your question. That's the answer to the question about, oh, I'm here, kumbaya, to fix the world. Fix yourself. Let us fix ourselves. And part of fixing ourselves means that the next time you go buy tomatoes and you see the checkout person has a frown instead of the smile that you usually see, you say, "What's the matter? You seem a little off today." That one notice could totally change life. What about somewhere in the back of your mind, your knowledge that 2 houses down, the guy just had a knee replacement? And you think to yourself, well, how is he going to get his trash cans down so you go over and you take down his trash. That's tikkun. That's correction. That's repair. That's how we fix the world. Kim, take yourself off mute.
Thank you. How do you spell that? I'm just curious.
What?
Tikkun.
Tikkun is the Hebrew word tikkun. Phonetically, you'd spell it Tikkum. Try Googling it and see what you get.
Oh, thank you. Curious.
Okay, so that is will and desire from the supernal sense, from the godly sense. Now let's drop down to da'at. Now da'at, if you remember, is the third intellectual faculty. It's the internalization of everything. And the reason we're not going in order sequentially and we're dropping down to da'at in this first lesson, knowledge or understanding in this first lesson, is because whatever we just discussed as it relates to God, now we're going to discuss it relating to ourselves in terms of our will, our wants, our purpose. So the first question I have is, with all this high-minded stuff we're talking about, how is it that sometimes we have a will, we have a desire, and we don't carry through? It never comes to fruition. Perhaps we don't want it enough. Remember when you were parents and maybe some of us had patience issues with our kids and you lose your temper in the heat of the moment? So you could say, I'm not going to lose my temper. I'm not going to lose my temper. And then you lose your temper. Does that mean you didn't want it enough? No, there's another aspect. And that is this quality called da'at. What's the English we're using for da'at? Knowledge. The concept is application, applying the knowledge. And the character trait is one of focus. That's what we're talking about. So what are we going to call this, just so we know what we're talking about? Should I call it knowledge? Is that good with everybody? No, we're going to call it internalization. So internalization of knowledge is the practical implementation of will, of desire. The internalization is the power of the soul to stay focused on what it wants, to set a concrete goal, to create a practical plan, a program to obtain what it is that we set out to do. So a parent who has a patience issue with his kid must put a practical plan in place. Take a break, time out, count to 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, whatever it takes, deep breaths. There's a story. I don't remember if it's King Solomon, maybe, or Rebbe Meir, I don't know. Stories like this. And a man is walking through the forest, and he notices that there are many arrows, tens and tens of arrows, stuck into various trees. And each one of the arrows is in the center of a target. So there's 20 or 30 arrows and 20 or 30 trees, and each one is a bullseye. And he thinks to himself, my God, this must be like who was it, William Tell or Robin Hood or somebody? This must be like the archer of all archers. I got to find whoever this is. And sure enough, he sees this young man with a bow and a quiver of arrows on his back. He says, are you the one that shot all these bullseyes? And the kid says, yeah. He says, you got to give me a demonstration. Sure, no problem. Takes out the arrow and puts it in the bow, releases it. It hits the tree. And then he walks over to the tree with a piece of chalk and puts the target around it. What's the difference between drawing the target first versus shooting first? That's the question. A person who's getting in sync spiritually, psycho-emotionally, a spiritually evolved individual sets goals and thereby measures success. That's what's key in what we're talking about. That's what you should be thinking about. Do you just let things happen? Setting practical goals that reflect your greater purpose is not easy. It's a lifelong challenge. So again, I hearken back to your journal, which I hope you'll take seriously. The question is, do your goals match what you're needed for? So what are we really talking about? We're talking about your personal pan pizza. No, your personal divine image. Making your divine image dominant in your life. That's what we're talking about. And it's challenging. It does not come without effort. And by the way, if you're like watching this and groaning inside, you don't have to do this stuff. If you want to come along for the ride and learn something, and next cocktail party you go to, you can talk about the Kabbalah, and you can be like a master, the whole thing. You don't
I'm trying to figure out how to work that in the next conversation I have with you. the fact that, but I'm going to bring it up and do that very same thing.
So it's a challenge. There's no question about it. This is not easy. This is the long, shorter way to life.
I have no idea what my goal is.
Say again?
I have no clue. I mean, my goal is to get to, I do hope at the end of each day that I left it better than I found it. But at this point in life, my goal is not to trip. I'm serious.
Dvoratova, every room I've seen you walk into lights up when you walk in.
Oh, thank
So
you.
you're just not even aware of what's going on.
I am clueless. I know that.
Yeah, she's.
But the reality is, if you really begin to internalize this stuff and try to go for it, I'm just warning you ahead of time. You're going to encounter spiritual friction. The more you try to refine and to grow, the tougher it gets. But the question is not, is this comfortable? The question is, does this advance the goals of your life? So again, what are the goals of your life? What are you needed for? Think about the process of discovering a diamond. It's all caked with crud and rocks and dirt. It takes a lot of work to refine that diamond. But the bottom line is, it's nice and shiny and worth a lot of money. So in case anybody needs a reminder, we're not angels. God's got legions and legions, billions and billions of angels. He doesn't need more angels. He needs us to be his partners in creation. That's why we're here. We're here to take this jungle and to turn it into a garden. And you can start with a checkout person. You could start with a neighbor. You can start by picking up a piece of litter on the street.
Would this be like similar to, I don't have another term, but like as you discover yourself, it's hard for me to find goals. I mean, I've been asked that. My daughter wrote it out one time on a fridge, like 1 year, 5 years, and even asking people sometimes, which is important. But when you think of that diamond and it's all black, you know, what it goes through, like the shadow parts that some might call it, the, you know, parts that are hard within self, the things that are in there that, you know, you have to acknowledge and work through and move so that you can then, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I'm speaking not so much of 1 year and 5 year plans.
Right, not necessarily that, but the parts that are dark or the parts that are, when you said it can cause friction the more you try to work and the more like it's just not a simplistic process by any means. And so you have to acknowledge all the parts.
Well, there's also no arrival. There's no place where you get to wherever there is. There is no there either.
Yeah, true.
Because we're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
And all we're trying to do, as we said at the beginning, is take these 10 powers and give them a 5,000-mile check, clean them up, get some of the crud out so that we function better. Not that we're not all fully functional human beings. I get it. I mean, these are all of you. I know each of you on this call. I mean, each of you are very, very fine people. So I don't mean to suggest otherwise. I'm just saying, like I said at the beginning, you're either climbing or you're sliding. There's no standing still. And being old is not an excuse. It just isn't. So we're taking what can I say? Think, refine, journal. That's what you do this week. Think, refine, journal. Think about what we talked about. Please read the PDF that I sent you. If you're up to it, please listen to the recording, which I'll send out, God willing. It worked and it recorded. I'll send it out to you. Next week, we're going to be speaking about the key to self-esteem. Many, many people, as Dr. Kimberly will attest, grapple with feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness that sap their energy and keep them from making more of themselves. So we're going to learn a brand new approach, not a brand new, an ancient approach to how we define ourselves in terms of the infinite potential in your soul. Because your inherent worth stems not from what you accomplish, but from who you are. And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. We've got a few minutes. Questions, comments, cucumber?
Can I answer Lori? And that is spelled Tikkun, Tikkun Olam, Olam.
Thank you, Walter.
I'm going to tell you the fact that you're not seeing me, but the fact that I'm really smiling about all of this. The fact that I sort of take the difficulty of finding a purpose in life, and I ask your response, because you're much more learned than I. Psalm 119 says, thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my soul. Can we find the purpose that God has given to us outside of reading the scripture and allowing God to speak to us? And is our purpose not discovered by the light that your Torah gives to you? That's the other thing. And the last comment was, if I were smart enough and my old body capable enough, you and I would have a great conversation taking the long path in the park. The fact that there's so much.
Sounds good to me, Walter, but not in the summer. Let's wait for the fall for that.
Yeah, but thank you for the time. It's been more than interesting.
Thank you, Walter. So I hope anyone else?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, next week, same bat time, same bat channel. Wednesday, 7:30. See you then, and look for the recap email that, God willing, I'll send out tomorrow.
Thank you
Right.
so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful.
Shabbat shalom.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.